branding. It was such a huge thing for us. You know, we came into the market with nothing. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have a contact in our phone book. We definitely didn't have a brand.
It all started with a website.
It did. One that looked great,
Wasn't
but
that
we
bad
had
at the time,
well,
but
we
yeah.
had no real estate on it. But how important is
Imagine having a real estate website with no real estate on it.
It was interesting.
Basically just a website, yeah.
How important is it to the newer agent that's trying to break into the luxury space? How important is branding and personal image when you're trying to attract a specific type of clientele, a high net worth client?
There's so many. Do you know what's so interesting? In the high-end market, if you look at the key players, right, everyone is so different. It's so crazy.
It's so true.
There's not one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it. And I was actually on the phone to somebody yesterday, and she was asking, because she got her license and she wants to get into real estate, and she was like, what do I do? And my first thing that came out my mouth, other than work as hard as possible and be fully committed, was be true to yourself. And if you need to, you know, if you look up to a mentor that you see yourself in. Because again, there's many key players in the high-end market and everyone is very different. They all work, right? But they're just very different ways that work. So I think find a mentor, be true to yourself, and really look towards your inner strengths. And they could be different from someone else's that's very successful's inner strengths. But if you're genuinely tapping into your inner strengths and you're working on making those stronger every day and gaining the knowledge of the market, you're going to be in good shape.
If you're a new agent and you're trying to build your personal image and your brand, it's like, look for who speaks to you. Look who is authentic to you. And that's kind of where you want to brand yourself and how you want to be. Don't try and be us if you're more Josh Altman. And don't try and be Josh Altman if you're more us, meaning
Unless you can do a great British accent, but yeah.
That as well. Unless you truly don't know what your identity is, then you got to figure out who it is. But you are as good as your brand, and you are as big as your brand, and your brand is as powerful as you. So make sure that that brand is authentic to exactly who you are, because people smell bullshit. Lack of strategic thinking.
It's so funny because it always goes back to like, are we bullshitters? Or if we don't know the answer to something, can we say, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yep.
I will get back to you. So my point is that it's important to know as much as you can, and you're going to learn through experience and frankly from making mistakes, but don't bullshit your way out.
Don't bullshit the bullshitter is what we say. But look, you always have to be strategic in this industry. It is a strategic industry. It's not easy. Some may say it's cutthroat.
I mean, it is pretty cutthroat.
But
yeah.
And it is cutthroat, but you do have to be very strategic. Successful agents understand the market through data and trends. We talk about it all the time. If you're going to be strategic, be a wealth of information, be a wealth of advice to your clients. Are you analyzing pricing and inventory and neighborhood dynamics? But don't just have all of this information. Be strategic with that information so you can provide value.
Yeah, and I think listen to your clients. Listen to what they're asking. Don't just throw facts at them that they haven't even asked for, because it's so important, because you're basically just waffling at that point, right? However much you know. If they're not asking the question, don't answer it. Give them that respect to actually hear what they want to know. Yeah,
people can smell bullshit. I mean, it's like we always talk about having a level of authenticity in this business. If you're true to yourself, if you're true to who you are, it's real, it's organic. If you're bullshitting, people will smell it from a mile away. But the key to success in this business is strategy. You don't just show up, you plan and you execute with intent.
And integrity.
And integrity. Your first experience, Dave, or should I say, what was our first experience actually selling luxury real estate like?
We worked with a lot of teardowns, though, didn't we?
So, we did. We sold a lot of dirt. That was luxury, but in a different way. Yeah, but how was that?
In the markets. I mean, Bel Air, for example, right, where we do an incredible amount of business to this very day. We would door knock around Bel Air, and we would, because how are we going to get into a market? How are we going to compete with agents that have sold billions in real estate, that have sold all the houses in Bel Air and Holmby Hills? How are we going to compete with that with zero track records? So we were actually pretty creative, because at the time, It was a lot about, tear downs, building bigger houses on, on lots, maximizing the lot value. So for us, it was about, listen, if I'm going to approach a developer and offer them a deal, they're going to crunch the numbers and they're going to buy it if it makes sense. They don't really care how much real estate we've sold before. If the deal makes sense, they're going to buy it. And that's what we were doing. We were door knocking in the most luxury market there was.
Yeah.
And really, from not having much of a track record, suddenly we were selling $6+ million teardowns.
So luxury doesn't have to be luxurious?
I mean, that definitely wasn't luxurious. I guess it was just the area and the dollar amounts we were dealing with.
But those $6 million houses turned into $35, $40 million listings down the road.
And I don't think we were even thinking about it at the time. At the time, we just wanted to do a deal.
Yep.
And a $6 million deal to this very day is a very big deal, right? It just happened to be this was just the land value amount of the property. So yes, by default, which we know now, we ended up not just selling the $6.5 million teardown, but also selling the finished product after the fact, which was nearly $40 million. So it's kind of wild.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. So don't think luxury is just selling beautiful, luxurious properties. Look at the long term. You sell a teardown and you maintain the relationship, it will come back 10, 15 times the price of what you sold it for. What can agents do today to showcase their unique value? Is it more about knowledge, experience, communication? Is it all of the above? Like each day, what are you doing?
I think it's about again, it always goes back to the same thing. It's utilizing these technologies, these changes to your advantage.
Yep.
So if you as a realtor are not, or we as realtors are not utilizing these technologies, we don't look at them like a threat, and neither do we look at these NAR changes. We don't look at anything like a threat. We actually think that how can we adapt as best we can around these changes, and how can we utilize these changes, right? The AI, the NAR settlement, everything going on, how do we utilize those as positives to make us stronger? I think that's always the mindset we have to have. And again, we mentioned the AI answer. I mean, use it with a pinch of salt. Don't rely on it solely. But, if it can benefit you, if you need something answered quickly and you can kind of fact check yourself and just get that information straight away, great. Don't rely on it solely.
But what's your unique selling point? A client comes to you, forget AI.
I think trust, really. I mean, ultimately, like if I transact with a client, right, I treat them as though I don't bullshit them, so to speak, right? I treat them like, I always say it, like they're my family, like I would want myself treated, right? And I use the knowledge that I know. I always say that I don't sell. What I do is I convey the truth to the other side. And I think what's really helped me personally is being very convincing and conveying that truth, because I'm not lying. I'm not a liar. I'm not a bullshitter. I actually am just telling the truth. If I think that teardown is a great opportunity, or if I think that house is really well built and really well located, or sits on a good piece of land that you could develop in the future with good soils, or has a good view channel, or is underutilized, or could be expanded in any way, I'm going to say it, right? I'm just going to say the truth. And that for me has worked really well, because we talk about like, it's not just a sale, beyond closing, you want to maintain that relationship. And I always find that the majority of my business is repeat, because those people that I've transacted with like me, they trust me, and they know me.
The power of the word no in our industry is so powerful. If you can turn around to a client and tell them this is not the right property and here's why. I've always found, when I say to agents, I'm never looking at a sale from a paycheck perspective. I'm looking at it from the perspective of, if you turn around to me in 2 years and say, I want to sell this, can I get your money out and can you make money?
Bar the market crashing, we can't help that.
Correct.
But, yes.
but again, it's like trust, authenticity. If you can relay that to your client, I mean, God, you will have that client forever. So don't think about that quick paycheck. Trust and relationships are still at the core of real estate.
The role that real estate agents have been playing in helping communities recover from the wildfires. James, let's just talk about what we've experienced and what our roles have been as realtors.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I feel like our job goes way beyond just placing somebody into a home. You know, these are families. They have children. Those children go to school, and they're now at a place where they literally don't know what to do. And so as real estate agents right now, outside of finding people homes, you're starting to really see our community speak up about real estate taxes, about putting a hold on ULA, about building restrictions, what the city allow versus disallow, what the Coastal Commission allows versus disallows. And I really am proud of our community for speaking up and trying to actually make a difference beyond us just putting people in homes, leasing them and selling them. I think there's a lot more to it than just that right now.
Let's talk a little bit about what you saw, what we saw directly from clients and friends who lost their homes.
We've seen it all. I mean, we've literally seen it all. We have personal friends, single mothers that lost everything down to their dogs and cats and left in the morning thinking they'd go back in the afternoon. And by the time the mandatory evacuation happened, they weren't allowed home. And they lost pets, they lost dogs, they lost lifetime memories. They lost absolutely everything. I just can't even explain how devastating the whole experience has been. And not only that, now they've lost everything. It's like, what's next? And I just think as agents, we need to step up and help these people in any which way that we can. You know, insurance is a huge topic right now. Like what are you telling clients when it comes to insurance, how to handle it? It's hard because you want to give advice, but you also don't want to be an expert in every field. Like, what advice are you giving around insurance right now?
Well, the first thing I ask personally is, do you have an insurance agent? Most people do, because that's how hopefully they got their insurance anyway. Some people are on Fair Plan. Regardless whether you're on Fair Plan or if you do have the insurance, speak to an expert, right? And we work very closely with multiple insurance agents. And the first thing I say to them is, call this guy. Ask him the questions, because he is going to help you navigate this. Some of it's uncertain, some of it's going to take time, but speak to an expert. There's also attorneys that have reached out to us directly who can also help facilitate the process. But for me, it's always speak to an expert. We as realtors are here to help where we can, but also make the correct and necessary introductions to other experts who really do specialize in that field. And they are the insurance agents, they are the attorneys.
This is a silly secret I shouldn't be saying, but I'm going to say it. I don't know how to fill out the new contract. I don't know how to get into DocuSign.
Yep.
I actually don't even know how to get into the MLS anymore. There's
you shouldn't need to.
No joke. I don't know, because that's not what I'm good at. I'm not good at that stuff. What I'm good at is human-to-human connections.
Yep.
I'm great at building.
Yep.
I'm great at selling. I'm great at showing. I'm great at negotiating. I'm great at anything front forward.
Yep.
Anything at the back, I know how to direct the show. Here's what I need. Here's what we need, and here's why.
Yep.
But I'm not good at doing it.
Yep.
I realized that a long time ago. I remember I was making like $40,000. This goes back to when I was like 18, 17. I hired an assistant.
Yep.
Because I knew I couldn't do it. I'm not that organized. I'm not that structured. I needed somebody to do that for me. And once I did that, I was able to fly.
I love it.
Because what I'm good at, I'm good at.
Yep.
And what I'm not good at, and I always tell people, talk to me about politics, love, life, not that good.
Yep.
Talk to me about real estate in general.
Yep.
I'm good.
Yeah.
It's what I'm good at.
Really
I'm
good.
really good at that. So like that's the one thing, and I've learned a long time ago. My gut is accurate.
Yeah.
As long as I listen to it, I'm dead on. And I know when I'm going to make, sometimes I don't listen to my own gut, but I know when I'm going to make money. I know when I'm not. I know when a house is going to be a flop. I know when it's going to be a success. I know what relationships are going to work and what ones are
It's a
not.
superpower, honestly.
I
You
just
have
this-
it or you don't.
Correct. But now sometimes we don't listen because real estate agents tend to be a little slutty.
Yeah.
We try to get as much business as we can. And that's part of the business too, because there's this one thing, and I always say it just happens. There's this 1% chance that we're wrong
Yep.
or right. And that 1% keeps us making mistakes.
Called greed.
It's called greed.
It was built in.
Listen,
I'm with you.
We make a lot of money.
Yep.
And the deals that, I remember I walked away from a $65 million deal last year and it sold. And I was like, no, the year before, sorry. And I'll never forget. I was like, God, I thought it was not going to sell for a penny over 38.
We've all been there and done it, right?
That person made $2 million.
Yeah. We've all been there and done it. Play to your strengths, not your weaknesses.
100%.
And that's what my takeaway is from that.
Definitely, 100%. Well done, Aaron.
Thank you.
On all your success.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
being true
it.
to yourself.
Thank you. By the way, vice versa.
As agents, and you kind of touched on this, but as agents, I think the key to success is working smart, right? We all know that we work hard. We all know how many hours a day we put into this business. We all know that one of the hardest things we all struggle with is having a healthy balance. And I think all of that starts with, how do I work smart, right?
Yeah.
You can all work hard, but how do I work smart? And I think that, having CRMs to put you into check of how to run more efficiently, having a software that is generating leads, those leads then go into the CRM, having marketing tools that make you more efficient as a team, for us at least, and this doesn't go for everybody, but for us as a team, we like to consider ourselves like a well-oiled machine, right? And so there are certain tech stacks out there now that allow you to become more efficient in the way that you run your business every day. And so we have just found that working with Inside Real Estate, and I don't want this to sound like an infomercial because it's not, but with these offshoots of Bold Trail and Core Home, it's just allowed us to become more efficient. And that to me is working smart. And that to me is the key to success in this business and what will separate you from the rest of the competition. That's for me. So that's where we have found this to be very useful.
I love that. I mean, to me, I think one of the things that you said is interesting and very indicative of where I think the industry is today and kind of has to be over the next while. You talk about your guys' business as a machine, right? Yeah. And it's like it has to, system and process has to really drive that, right? And I think one of the things that it's not a brand new concept to the space, and yet I think a lot of this, the kind of policies and these lawsuits and some of these, part of what that's driven is there's less of an option in the future, I think, to be unprofessionalized in the space, right? I think that's one of the primary kind of outcomes of a lot of this is that you see folks who feel this push toward professionalization, and what that means is running their business like a machine. And I think sometimes they forget that their job, let's say if you're running a team or a brokerage or something, your job is to lead, but your business has to be powered by process.
I think what you're telling me over and over is the more desperate you were for business,
yes,
the harder it was to do business.
I think that's the advice I would give.
And the cooler you became about it, the easier it was. And the more energy you put out, the more energy you attracted. Is kind of what I'm hearing today.
That's exactly right.
So the advice that you're really giving is desperation doesn't sell.
Yes.
And good energy does.
Yes, definitely.
And healthy balance is probably, as we know, the most important thing in this entire industry. Mm-hmm. And if you're a parent, especially a single parent, I would imagine healthy balance is probably the most important thing. Yeah. Because this business will take over your life. There are no boundaries. It is 24/7. So we, as parents, as human beings, as husbands and wives and friends, have to set those boundaries if we want to be successful.
Yes.
Because if we don't, it just doesn't end.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a lot, and I love hearing this from you.
Yeah,
and I love hearing it from
you.
others because it gives me a reminder as a father or two, I need to set healthy boundaries because otherwise it will just go and
swallow
go.
You whole.
Absolutely it will. So
I don't know if this is advice. It's more of a warning or like ask yourself, are you prepared to work 24/7? And if you're not, it's not for you. And if you are, great. But it's time management, I would say. Like really, because this is such a 24/7 business, you need to come up with and I experienced this on my honeymoon. It was like, all right, these 4 hours a day, every few days I will sit down and work, but then I have to like allow myself to detach.
That's the hardest thing to do.
And
for
it's
me.
impossible.
Yeah.
And it was so impossible. My assistant was like, can you stop texting me? Like everything's fine at inspection, just relax. So I guess the advice is manage your time. I guess that's work smart.
It is. Yeah.
You know, I keep going back to the working smart thing. I think it's having thick skin. Like you have to have thick skin and remember that like if one thing falls through, there's 5 other things that won't right after. And just to stay strong because it can be intense.
It most certainly can. Thank you for that.
Don't be distracted from something you should be devoted to.
Yeah.
And I really apply that in every aspect of my life. When I'm supposed to be working, I'm not playing on my Instagram. I'm not texting my friends. I am working my brains out. I am working diligently. I don't pick up my phone. I don't have it right there next to me because I want to be able to be 100% efficient, but I also want to be 100% effective. And you can't be effective if you're distracted, period. And so when I'm working, it's all about work. And when I am playing, it is all about play.
Love that. So go back to the working part, for example, right? Obviously, you know, if you go to jiu-jitsu or, you know, you're spending time with your family, you leave your phone out of it. Okay. So now, as far as the working part goes, are you talking about being on the phone, doing emails, both at the same time, or are you good at actually strategically doing one thing at a time? Like if you're writing an email, you're writing that email, you will not take the phone call and vice versa.
Correct. So if I am on the phone with a client, I am in a relationship. I'm in an appointment with that person. They deserve 100% of my time. I don't take my phone into appointments. The only time I have my phone out is when I'm accessing the lockbox. When we're just looking at the house, I do not have my phone out. I'm in an appointment with those people.
Wow.
When I'm writing an email, I am absolutely focused on that email. That is for a client. I need to have my A game. I am the Michael Jordan of real estate. You don't see Michael Jordan goofing off while he's out there practicing, while he's out there playing, when he's taking those shots. And I think that the focus and discipline that I have been able to implement in my lifestyle is part of the success factor.
I think I'm personally taking a lot away from this.
Amen.
Oh, good.
Well done and well said. When you're in the room, give somebody your attention, time, and focus. I think, look, we can both say, David and I, we're not good at that. We're permanently thinking about the next thing, or, you know, there's 10 things going on. There's 100 things going on. But how can you do one thing to your full ability if you're thinking about 500 other things? It's humanly impossible. So I think that is the key takeaway here is like when you're in the room, focus, turn your phone down, stop responding to emails and try. And by the way, it's not easy, but really try and focus your attention to the task that you have at matter.
That wraps up yet another episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Rise above the ranks. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and listening or watching on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow for more from Rise Above the Ranks and Estate Media, and leave us a comment on who you'd like to see on future episodes. Thank you for watching.